you.
Welcome, Megan.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Mia Leondakis,
Good afternoon. I'm Emily Lee.
and we are with VMware, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about our journey at VMware and how we've scaled our operations. And before we begin, just a little bit of a summary of who VMware is. We're a global software company located in Silicon Valley. We're roughly about $10 billion, about 25,000 employees. Our focus is on cloud infrastructure and digital workspace management solutions. We're also part of the Dell family of Dell Technology family of companies. So what we're going to cover today is why RPA and intelligent automation, a little bit about our ecosystem, some of the things we've learned along the way, and what's next for us. Okay, before we begin, I'm going to do a quick poll of the audience to get people warmed up right after lunch. And if we look at these four objects, which one of these do we think is the most efficient? When we consider the distance moved to the body weight and energy consumed, quick poll, raise your hand, is it the guy that's running? The horse? A few of the horse. The fish? The airplane?
Wow, Mia, looks like the fish is winning.
Well, let's just see. Actually, none of the above are correct. It's actually the human on the bicycle. And some of you guys may know this study, that this was based on a Scientific American study done by S.S. Wilson back in the early 70s. And what he found was that the bicycle, together with the human, outperforms all other animals and machines on the efficiency parameter. And this was something that really resonated with Steve Jobs, and he was saying that equipped with the right tools, humans can amplify their performance and really outperform. And what inspired Steve was he often likened the computer to the bicycle, and he would say the computer is like the bicycle of our mind. And why we're talking about this today is because when we think about RPA and intelligent automation, we want to look at how our organizations can be equipped with the right tools so we can amplify our performance. So we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing at VMware. And before we do, I'll share a little bit about the organization, business transformation and automation. So we're a global team. There's roughly about 300 folks in BTA at VMware, and we drive large transformation initiative, cross-functional, tier 1 programs. And these are really to support things like new business model enablement, as we're acquiring new companies, integrating the companies into our organization, also looking at some of our operational excellence and efficiencies with business process management and other operational efficiencies areas. About 2 years ago, we introduced RPA into our ecosystem at VMware to really drive scale, and we were looking at efficiencies, scale, as well as innovation. And when we think about innovation at VMware, it's core to who we are. And so by introducing RPA, we really eliminate a lot of the manual work that folks are doing, and it allows people to spend more time innovating and solving complex problems. It's a core. Innovation is truly core to who VMware is. So you hear a lot of people talk about scale and efficiencies. That matters to us too, but also freeing up the mind to innovate is important at VMware as well. So when we think about our ecosystem and the strong partnerships it takes at VMware to be successful with RPA and intelligent automation, we start internally. So we have an RPA Center of Excellence, which is part of BTA. It's a global team located in 4 locations across the globe: Bangalore, Costa Rica, Palo Alto, and Pune. Roughly 40 to 50 people in the COE today. We also partner with our IT teams, apps, infrastructure, and information security to ensure we have the right infrastructure, and IT is part of the Center of Excellence to ensure that we have that support that we need as well. But it's not just about the partnerships within our org, it's also the partnerships with UiPath, our product company. We work very closely with the customer success team. Also, we work closely with engineering. We're interested in not only understanding best practices and how we can do things better, but also trying to understand the product roadmap so we can ensure that we are taking advantage of all the new capabilities that are coming to bear. And third is around the partnership with a delivery partner, InnoWise. So when we started our COE, we put it together internally. In our first year, we had a lot of success. We delivered roughly 34 processes in that first year. And we all know what happens when you have a lot of success. The goals get higher and much more aggressive to achieve. And so our goal this year was to go from 32 processes up to 140 processes. And so we knew internally we were not going to be able to do that with our internal COE. So we introduced a partnership with InnoWise, who really helps us scale and is helping us keep on track with achieving those goals. So the operating model of our COE starts with a very, very robust intake process. Like, where do the projects come from? And they come from all over the organization. We certainly don't have any lack of projects that parts of the organization want to introduce. When we're working with the business on business process management, we're mapping their processes, looking to optimize the process. We're looking at process performance to identify, are there areas of opportunity that RPA can be effective? We're also looking at, as I mentioned, we're working on these large cross-functional transformation initiatives in the company, and oftentimes there's a part of that transformation initiative that can leverage intelligent automation or RPA. And oftentimes there's smaller IT changes that don't make it to the roadmap because that's just simply not a high enough priority, but the business does need some automation to take place. So we very often will introduce one of our RPA bots, even if it's for a short term, and then retire it when an IT automation becomes available. And then around policy and process enablement, the company is transitioning with new business models. And when we introduce new business models, a lot of policy comes with that. And oftentimes with these new policies, we'll create a lot of manual work for our operations teams. And so we have leveraged RPA to eliminate a lot of that manual work within the policy enablement. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily to talk about, now that we've got our big list of projects, what do we do with it? How does the COE that you lead take over and make it happen?
Great, thanks, Mia. So, let's double click in terms of the three phases, the ideation, design, and operation. So as we look at the concept to define, right, we have a great intake, robust pipeline here, but we have a grooming team, a dedicated team to take a look at these requests and work closely with our business process teams to understand what is this in terms of automation? Does it meet our business criteria? For example, does it help with customer satisfaction? Does it also improve operational efficiency? Once we understand that the criteria based on this is a good fit for RPA, we would take this, these ideas, the concept itself, and then work through a different level of as is and to be processed. We leverage our BPM tool to be able to document that end to end. And all of this is now transferred over to our designing team. The designers would then work on this, automate this, and through an agile methodology, be able to show some of these enhancements and features along with our process owners. Once it's tested through regression as well as functionality, we bring in our RPA operation team to onboard this. But before doing that, they also go through their checklist to make sure, one, do we have a business continuity plan set up? As you know, we're automating processes, so if something happens to these bots, who's going to be doing the work because the people may be reallocated elsewhere? So once we have a robust plan and understanding the functionality, then this is where it gets onboarded. So as we go through the end-to-end from the initial intake to the closure, we also introduce our Salesforce.com tool to be able to track the project end-to-end. Our project management team within the BTA would manage this through the various life cycle to ensure that we have the right risk mitigation. So, as I go through this, you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of time. But, by setting up the governance, the standards, we're able to really scale and move quickly so that we can deliver these capabilities. So Mia, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
We've now automated, last count was close to 300,000 efficiency savings.
So 1 second, Shell, did you hear that? Because I think he said 100, it's actually 300.
Yes, it's 300,000 now.
Yes.
And we've also automated close to a little over 100 automation processes. What's top of mind for you when it comes to RPA?
Thank you for that nice setup, Emily. It's obviously it's critical that we design the processes effectively and the bots are, consistent and as we're developing them. But for me, what keeps me up at night and what I think is most critical is the care and feeding of the bots when they're in production. Actually, I say it used to keep me up at night. Now I'm feeling a bit better about it. When you think about it, as I mentioned, as part of BTA, we're delivering roughly at any given time, like right now there's 200 active projects in progress. That's a lot of business processes that are being touched at the same time. And so ensuring that there's not something that's going to be happening with one of these other projects that's going to have an impact on one of our bots is absolutely essential. And so when we think about it, I look at, hey, the business process owner, that is your digital workforce. You need to be paying attention to what changes you're introducing into your ecosystem. I look at IT and say, hey, help, from your perspective, let's make sure as we're introducing new automations that we're considering how this impacts the ecosystem. But most importantly, it's the RPA Center of Excellence support team that is doing the monitoring that I'm going to let Emily speak a little bit more about because it's her team. I know she's super proud of what they're doing, that is ensuring that the bots in production are working effectively and staying active.
Very happy to do that, Mia. So when we focus on the RPA operation, we look at these various dimensions because the first thing is that it's not an application, just an application support, because there are processes. There's also thinking about the adoption element as well. So as we first start off with the onboarding, right, where I talked about earlier in terms of designers and RPA team, operation team brought in to do onboarding is because to create that segregation of duties. You don't want the designers who have the ability to design and code to also deploy this in production. So that's number one. But also more importantly is for our RPA operations to understand what processes are getting automated. Because this is important as they understand this, that's going to trigger in terms of what they need to do proactively. The second part is the heightened support, right? When we think about SLA in a traditional application, you have your tier 1 and so forth. But now that we're automating processes, we have to think about if a user is doing something on every single day, it could be a business critical process. So therefore, we have to rethink about how we plan our resources and what is it that we need to do to adhere to those SLA. The third phase is that we spend a lot of time in terms of steady state, and this is our partnership with UiPath as well, to look at, number one, what are all the capabilities when it comes to dashboard and reporting, because it is our digital workforce. We need to make sure our business process owners have the ability to see how things are performing. So we're investing a lot of time. The other thing that Mia commented about is that, with our application, we're introducing lots of changes every single day. So the partnership with IT is so critical to ensure that we understand what is changing so that we can get proactive and get preemptive and make sure our changes to the bots are there. The last thing I would say is also the quick wins and enabling a team that is separate from the designing group to be able to react and be able to support any quick enhancements, as it is, again, optimizing the digital workforce that you don't want to spend too long of a period to deploy these changes. So Mia, we've been this for about 2 years now and counting. I know early on we had experienced some, a couple of challenges or a few. Would you like to comment on some of the challenges that you saw?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. I think I'll take the first few of them and talk a little bit about the intake process and prioritization. Early on when we started this up, we started with a couple of pilots and we were very aspirational. We took a couple of really complex projects, one in particular around opportunity management for the sales force. It was complex and it was very aspirational. It didn't work. We failed with that first project. That never went into production, and we needed to get an IT automation to do what we were trying to do with RPA. So it was certainly a challenge. Obviously, one of the best practices is to start small and get some quick wins under your belt. We learned the hard way to do that, so the next few, we certainly did that, and we got some quick wins. The second challenge we had was around stakeholder buy-in. It certainly doesn't help the sales team and sales ops buying in when you've just failed at your first project. And so, we did have to quickly bring them along the journey and get them engaged and ensure that they were part of the process, watching the development throughout the life cycle so that it wasn't about the BTA team delivering this to them. Together, we were partnering to deliver this into their organization. And so that was another important lesson that we learned. The third thing I would just like to highlight is around scalability. As we mentioned earlier, having that development partner was critical. We knew we had to go 5x in our capacity to deliver more this year, and so by bringing on a third party instead of trying to deliver everything internally ourselves, I think was, we tried to do it ourselves. We were behind on our goals, so by adding the third party, that really helped us set us up for success to achieve our goals. And I know there's a couple more up here too, Emily, that are probably very near and dear to your heart, so please share.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one that resonates for me is security and compliance, and I think Oleg also mentioned that early on is in his previous section was around making sure, to bring in your information security, because we're talking about, compliance and automating certain processes. So the early that they can understand what the bot will be doing would be better towards that journey. And so we're continuing to work with them closely to make sure that we understand how to stay compliant with that. The second thing was infrastructure. When we first started, we did not use, our initial bot was not on a VM. Well, stepping back, we are VMware, so why not use a VM? And so as we introduce a VM and also high availability, we definitely see a better way for us to manage these bots. And then lastly is standardizing design. So we have designers globally, and obviously the designers would introduce codes on their own, and what we saw was that everybody would be different. So when we introduced the reusable code library, it certainly helped us to speed things up faster so that we can reuse those and get that into production.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So a few quick key takeaways based on some of these earlier learnings that we had was obviously partnership's key, both internal and external, starting small and scaling up, getting the right sponsorship, working for the CFO helps get that exposure across the organization. Optimize the process first. Automating a bad business process is not going to help anything. Educating and enable, and this is where our change management practice comes in, and really bringing the business teams along to explain the value, get them engaged, have their skin in the game to have joint successes. And then speed and agility. You heard Emily talk about governance and methodology. I mean, without having the governance and the methodology, we can't have that speed and agility. So we need to plan in order to go fast. And that's really our motto at VMware, is not just about doing it, it's about planning so that we can accelerate and go fast. So what's coming up and where are we at? We started with RPA, doing some manual task automation of repetitive tasks. tasks. As we've matured, we've gotten more involved in sensory and cognitive capabilities with NLP and OCR. And finally, we've started making our digital workforce more and more intelligent with AI and ML so that we can make decisions to do more complex work. And really, just like humans, our digital workforce is going to get smarter and smarter, being able to take on these more complex tasks, use some judgment, and really deliver more value to the organization. So just to wrap it up, we started off talking about a human riding a bicycle, and with the right tools, humans can improve the performance. And we also talked about having technologies that can help us to automate these manual tasks, to really free up people's minds to innovate and solve more complex business processes. And really, in the end, it's our people workforce working with our new digital workforce are working together to drive efficiencies, drive innovations, and really deliver greater impact for our organization. Thank you.
Thank you.